Alrighty. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Red Zone. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be demonstrating two new features that were part of version 15.7.0. Those were pushed this week on Tuesday. We're currently on version 15.7.1. These new features, the first that we're going to go over is going to be titled the form level delete rights. And the second is a MyCap email notification, which I think is one that's going to be really powerful tool. That's something I think it's been lacking for quite some time. So with that, I'll get started. First thing I'd like to share with you all is when you are on your homepage for your projects, if you scroll down here using again this tab here, you're going to be able to see this yellow tile here where you can see your red cap changes. So I just recommend if anyone, in our institution is viewing this to click that. As I mentioned, it's part of the 15.7.0. And then the two are going to be this section here, three bullet points, but I'm not going to waste time to just reading it. I'll paraphrase it throughout my presentation and kind of highlight the key points of for this aspect. And then the second new feature is the MyCap email notification. So I just highly recommend at your leisure just to read that. So we'll get started with the form level delete rights. Okay, in order to kind of use this new feature, it's all going to be kind of managed under your user rights. One thing to note though, it has to be someone, in order to give this right though, it has to be someone that has the full user rights, someone that can manage that and kind of change to those user rights. So if we go into this user here, as I mentioned, you need to ensure that you have the full user rights, as it's something that's going to be, as I mentioned with deleting. Couple th key things to kind of just point out though when it comes to delete records, as we previously mentioned with like the bulk delete section, it is kind of a powerful tool as it's something that permanently deletes records. As we can kind of see here with this asterisk, it does delete, records, repeating instruments, in this instance, in a instrument for specific records. So it should be kind of handled with caution just to understand the ramifications. Obviously, for our institution, we can kind of revert and get you that data back, but it should just be something for you to kind of know for your team when it comes to kind of giving them this delete record. There's two different ways you can kind of go about using this new feature. The first, and I'm going to demonstrate, is not having access to delete records. So as I mentioned, we're going to be looking here in this section of privilege for viewing and exporting data. In order to use this is the new section, as you can see here, that's new. Also the edit survey. So the first instance we'll go over, this is just going to be merely a data entry form. We're going to pretend this is not here. We haven't enabled the survey. In order to kind of do this by default, everyone usually is at, hidden no access. But as you can see, the delete was kind of removed. And that's because the kind of key token in order to use this new feature is for each instrument. So these are all different instruments here. You have to have the view and edit permissions, right? So we're going to enable that. And now we can kind of enable this. So now this user is going to be able to delete the demographics for this instant. They're going to be able to delete day one visit for this instrument and so on and so forth. So that's going to be the first kind of instance. Now, if this project, now we'll kind of go a different scenario. If this project did have enabled it as a survey, as you can see, this first instrument demographic has been the only one that's been enabled as a survey, hence why you won't see the checkboxes for these. You need to ensure if your project is a survey that you do have this enabled for edit survey response. If you do not have this checked here, you will not be able to delete that survey's instrument. So again, this is if your project is set up for data entry, and this is set up for if your project is enabled as a survey, so you can delete those instruments. So now we'll save this. Now, I kind of like to show you what that's going to look like, having that permission. And then there's one more thing I'd like to show. So let's say if I went into this record too, as I clicked on the demographics instrument, if we scroll down here, we're going to see this new tab here, delete data for this form only. It does give you a note, as we previously mentioned, this will delete the records on all forms and events. In order for you to kind of delete everything in here, if you click on this record home, it's going to take you to this. And this is something that we've had all where you'll delete this entire record and everything entirety with that record. However, as I mentioned, with this new function, we can delete this data for this instrument. And if we did have data for day one, ConMeds, AEs, everything would kind of stay intact. So we'll go ahead and click on delete, and it gives you just a second drop down. Are you sure you wish to permanently delete this records on this instrument, as this process is going to be permanent and cannot be reverted? So we'll go ahead and click on delete the record or the instrument. And as we can see, we don't have any data here, but if we look at record two here, we still have it. The only thing missing is going to be this section since we've deleted it. There is another way of kind of giving this permission. So we'll take a look at this user here. If we go to edit user privilege, as I mentioned, when I gave you the example of the other user, they did not have the delete record functionality. So this user does have this. And as you can see here, this includes the ability to delete whole records, an entire repeating instrument, event or instance, or all data and instrument. So pretty much meaning if you do have a specific user that already has this delete records, you're going to see it already grayed out, and that's because it says the delete record user overwrites the form specific delete right. So this is kind of the master. However, it has to have the view and edit. If not, as you can see, this box has been unchecked. So they need to have the view and edit, and then it'll automatically default for them to be able to delete this instrument, so on and so forth. So this is something, like I mentioned, that's kind of new. It's a very simple feature, but in the past, if you had to delete a specific instrument, it would delete the entirety of the record when you go into it. So now you can kind of tailor it, if you are doing your quality assurance check or you're testing things out, you kind of wanted to just see how demographics, that way you don't have a long listing of records. It's something you can kind of do to mitigate that. But that's going to cover our first new feature. Do you guys have any questions about this feature before I move on to the next one? No, perfect. I'll go on to the next one. The next one, as I mentioned, is going to be primarily for MyCap. So kind of just a refresher. So in the past with MyCap, if we go over to our MyCap participant management, it does have a functionality to message users. So it's a nice way where the user from their device can message anyone that's involved in the project. If we take a look at here, this logging here to kind of help you present this, we did have a demo a while back. It's a two-part series for MyCap. So if anyone is interested in that, just to check out our YouTube page and you can see our two parts on MyCap. But as we can see here, this panel here is going to be set up for the participant. This is going to be their messaging, and this is a way for you to respond to them. It is a powerful tool. However, in the past, if any participants did send you a message, you wouldn't get any email notifications or anything like that. You would have to go into your RedCap project, go to your My Participant Management, check out your inbox just to see if anything new has come in. With this new feature, it's actually something that's going to be able to email you when those notifications are. So in order to enable this, it's not going to be by default enabled. You'll have to set this up yourself. So if we go to email notification settings, we're going to see this here. So we have two different scenarios we can go. We'll go with the first one where we're not using any DAGs for this project. So it just lets you know this setting is used to primarily notify any project users when there's a new message that has been received by any of your MyCap participants through their MyCap app. So it's fairly simple to use this. So you're going to want to checkbox this, notify project users upon receiving message via email. You're going to list each email address of every user. As you can see, it's one per line, so you can't comma or semicolon. You'll just have it running there. So once you've listed the RedCap users you want to be notified, this is going to be a default text here that gets input and just says a MyCap or a participant has sent you a new MyCap message. It'll automatically have your project name as well as direct you to that inbox URL to read this message, which includes the email for, it won't include the message for privacy reasons. So once you have this, you go ahead and click save. As we can see here with our icon, we do have this green check since we have enabled. This one has not been enabled, and that'll be our kind of our second instance if we are using DAGs. So I've got one email just to kind of show you what that looks like. Drop it in here. So this is what that email looks like once you've set it up. It lets you know, as we previously stated, a participant has sent you a message It'll give you the title of whatever your project may be, and it gives you the URL so that way you can quickly click on that and you can see what that message. You go into this and you'll automatically be prompted into your newest, descending down to your oldest, and you can see here, we can click on this icon here, where we can see this was just a demo for myself, but they said, hey, I'm excited to join this study. I unchecked the action needed as it's something that didn't call for us to respond. But this is something that can be very powerful tool, especially if, your study does, deem for quicker response time or anything like that, or especially if your day is full of meetings, you can have this set up so that way you can be notified via your inbox. So you can see if those messages are coming in. The other option you have for setting this up is it does have the capability so you can set it up for DAGs. So in this instance, if we look at our DAGs here, I did set one up just for Tucson, just for demonstration purposes. So if we go into MyCap participant management, we go again to the message, email notification settings. If you go over here, you're going to be able to, again, as I mentioned, click this to enable it. If we had, multiple different DAGs, Phoenix, Yuma, whatever it may be, you would see those tabs over. And the same thing would apply. You would list the users that are specific to that DAG group. You would list them here. And if any messages with participants from Tucson for their DAGs were to send anything, those people would be able to receive those messages. Again, this is also the functionality so that way you can have a quicker response with your participants. You don't have to go into Mic or your RedCap project to see those messages. But that covers our two new features, fairly simple, but I think one of them I think is really powerful and will kind of enhance, the communication with your MyCap participants is going to be this feature. The deleting instruments is nice because you have a more of a customization how you want to go about that, but that covers this demo, and I'll open it up now to any questions you might guys have about the MyCap email notifications.